Hey guys, King of Charms here, WO Judge, Jury, and Analyst, and today I bring to you my top 5 teams for the Willpower Cup. So Willpower Cup is very weird. I'm glad they banned Shadow Guard, otherwise you just have a lot of Shadow Guards trying to just charm their way to victory down here. So at least they made a little bit of sense. So, Willpower Cup, if it wasn't for some pretty good save switches, like I mentioned the Shoutcast, this would probably be a very weird RPS Cup. And sadly, this cup is the one you're going to get for the Go Battle Night that's coming, or Go Bally that's coming up. So it's not bad, but it's not, definitely not anything to like scream and like shout over just because it's very bleh. The good thing is a lot of these mons you likely have already built, except for a few ones that you have to cheat to get, as in trade from a low level account. But hey, you know, or have XLs for something where you legitimately have to kill a bazillion rocket leaders. But hey, you know what? It's what it is. But before we get started, it's going to be my therapist mental health tip of the day. And it's going to be, since we're talking about Willpower Cup, we're going to look at an article about developing more willpower. This is actually an article that just recently got published. So, this is from Psych Central. You can skip this by 2 minutes of the video, go to the chapters. I'm tired of saying that, but it must be said because people complain. They're like, oh my god, no, we want to hear about battles, not thing. I'm like, I'm literally giving you free Psycho Ed, which would be about $100 to $300 or more an hour, actually for a 50-minute session elsewhere. So you're welcome, you ungrateful little pricks. Just putting that out there. I have no chill. But, as you see here, willpower. How do you develop more willpower? Well, if you lack willpower, you're not alone. It's difficult to make lifestyle changes, and you might feel like a lack of willpower or lack of self-control is to blame. And in one survey conducted by the American Psychological Association, people regularly cite a lack of willpower as the #1 reason for not making lasting changes. A lack of willpower is not a moral thing, it's also not permanent. Willpower is like a muscle or any skill, it can work and strengthened. So, how do you develop willpower? So, if you want to learn how to develop willpower, there's a lot. Mindfulness is one of them. Mindfulness is one of the big ones. The practice focusing on present moment can be a great technique for cultivating willpower. Willpower is very important for your mental health because it's going to be one of the things that either makes it or break it, to where you can power through mental illness, or power through therapy, or power through your own self-therapy in order to make sure you self-regulate yourself and you become a champion. So definitely take a look at this article. Very valuable and a lot of great information on here. Without further ado, this is my top 5 for the Willpower Cup, and let's get started. Alright, first off we got Gallade Shadow, Hisuian Quillfish, and Lucario. Hisuian Quillfish is a really good, inexpensive save switch. You probably have a ton of Quillfish candy, and you probably have captured an Hisuian Quillfish at one point. It's really good for this cup, and it's really good as a save switch, because a lot of times what you can do is you can send in a Hisuian Quillfish, try to break both shields, and then after that, you can go ahead and farm down whatever's left. That's why Hisuian Quillfish is good. But the reason why Shadow Gallade is also good is because there's not a lot of things here that stop Charm. Even if it's a poison type, Gallade has access to Charm, and the Shadow version is going to be able to charm a lot of things down. As you see, there's a lot of coverage here. Lucario is going to close out for you. In the closer, Lucario is just going to counter things down to death. That's what it is. And Shadow Ball will allow you to one-shot Medicham if you get it in the back, if you happen to see a Medicham. As you see, amazing coverage. There's not a lot of bulk. This team is just designed to do an obscene amount of damage. That's really what it is. You lose the lead with Gallade Shadow, you say switch into Hisuian Quillfish, and Lucario and Gallade close out with like the Charm 2 Shield strat, or Lucario punches everything to death. With the one big thing giving you a huge problem is probably going to be Mandibuzz, but the funny thing is, Mandibuzz isn't even your biggest problem. In the 2 Shield, Shadow Gallade is actually able to force a simultaneous KO. So this is kind of an IV dependent matchup, as you see here. You're going to charm through, both of you will break one shield, and then you pray to the Pokemon gods that whatever you throw in is the right answer. That's literally what happens here. But outside of that, as you see, Gallade is able to come out with the dub. So it's very interesting how this goes off, and as you see, it's a simultaneous knockout. Even if you use the normal Gallade, as you see here, if you use the normal one, Mandibuzz will outright, you can beat Mandibuzz. So you can use the regular version, you can use the Shadow version, it's up to you. But for this one, I just like the Shadow version because if you're going to charm down, you're going to charm down anyways. But yes, and also this is kind of an IV dependent matchup. You can have like it's kind of an IV like yeah, it's whatever. It's a close rating like a 485. There's a lot of factors that can come into it. Like you don't know your opponent's IV, so there's no point in you pulling your hair out. I already told you the biggest weakness with Gallade Shadow. Other things like other psychic types like Water Fed, Galarian Rapidash can give you a hard time just because of Fairy Wind. But that's what you have Swing Crowfish and Lucario for. So again, you lose the lead, you stay switching to Swing Crowfish, and hopefully Lucario or 2-Shield Gallade can close out with Charm. Yes, Charm is good here. It's not going to be super effective, but with a lot of Dark types being a lot of dominant meta, Charm Gallade or Charm Latios, I think it's Latios or Latias, are going to be very effective for this cup. Next, we have Mandibuzz, Drapion, and Alolan Raichu. This is a double safe switch team. Alolan Raichu and Drapion are great safe switches just because of their pressure. And yeah, just basic charge move pressure, death by charge move pressure. Mandibuzz is going to be your lead here. It's a giant tank and it gives you that bulk you need. If you lose the lead, you can break both shields. And Mandibuzz is the #1 closer in this cup. So it makes it pretty interesting. Excellent grades across the board. Really bulky, really safe. A lot of coverage across. And then as you see, Umbreon, Pawniard's going to give you the hardest time here. However, Pawniard XL is extremely inaccessible. Unless you have hatched a bazillion 12K eggs, you're not going to have one. That's what makes it a huge problem. As you see, Mandibuzz versus Umbreon, the 2-Shield isn't too bad. Umbreon will actually lose the 2-Shield against Mandibuzz. As you see here, just straight Aerial Ace. As long as you aren't rocking Foul Play, guess what? Mandibuzz can beat Umbreon, as you see here. So this is why I'm kind of like the potential threats. It's always defaults to the 1-Shield. It doesn't show you the 2-Shield scenario. So as you see, as long as Mandibuzz is able to do its job, Mandibuzz is actually able to beat Alolan Raticate in the 2-Shield. It also beats Umbreon in the 2-Shield. Zweilous is a different story. Zweilous is going to be able to body slam you to oblivion. However, what you can do is that you can sack Mandibuzz in the lead, and then Alolan Raichu and Drapion can close out. So you can go ahead and kind of leave it for dead, send in Drapion, farm down, and then throw all that energy at your opponent in the back row. Keep in mind though, Dragon Breath damage does add up, so you have to be a little careful here. Pawniard's your biggest nightmare. Again, Pawniard XL is extremely inaccessible. However, as you see here, you can just take out Pawniard or sack Mandibuzz in the lead and then farm down Pawniard because it's going to have 0 energy. You can go ahead and farm down Pawniard and then close out the back row with Alolan Raichu's Wild Charges and Drapion in the back. Very spammy team, lots of bulk, lots of closing power, and a lot of spam. So spam is good, especially if you have spam Wasubi, it's really good. It really is good. I should make some of that or go to a sushi place one of these because I'm digging some spam Wasubi. But yes, solid team, great grades across the board, and like I mentioned, lots of pressure. Next, we're just kind of flipping things upside down here. Well, you're having Alolan Raichu and Mandibuzz as a closer. And in the lead, we have Toxicroak. So Toxicroak is actually really good for this cup. Sludge Bomb and Mud Bomb is an excellent combination. With Sludge Bomb, you can wipe out those Galarian Rapidashes. With Mud Bomb, you will take out a lot of the poison type meta, just because counter Mud Bomb equals a lot of spam. As you see, amazing coverage, not a lot of bulk. This team is designed to do a crap ton of damage and then close out with Mandibuzz. You'll lose the lead with Toxicroak, you stay switching Alolan Raichu, try to break some shields, and hopefully Mandibuzz and Toxicroak with shields can close out. Toxicroak with your opponent shields down can do heavy damage. Like I mentioned, it's able to take out Galarian Rapidash. It's also able to take out other, well, actually, the thing is, Galarian Rapidash is the only fairy type pretty much that's viable for this meta. The only thing giving you a huge problem is Wobbuffet. Wobbuffet is supremely annoying. If you have an XL Wobbuffet, it's going to be great. However, if you try to line up against Alolan Raichu, you're not going to have a great time. As you see, Wobbuffet is able to yeah, it literally mirror coats you to death. As you see here, even if you try to zap it to oblivion, as far as wild charges go, it's kind of dumb. It's how powerful it is. No, seriously, look at this. You'll break both of their shields. They'll break only one of your shield, but as you see here, it still is with 109 HP. It's ridiculous how thick this thing is. So if you have Wobbuffet XL, Wobbuffet XL is actually really good for this cup. And it's going to use Charm. That's what makes it even more annoying. So before you say like, oh hey Umbreon, nope, it's going to literally charm you to death. That's Wobbuffet XL in the nutshell. Still really solid team outside of Wobbuffet XL and of course Alolan Raichu versus Toxicroak is in a super bad matchup. Yes, you will lose both of your shields. However, what you can do is sack Toxicroak in the lead, and then you can have Drapion and Mandibuzz farm down and try to close out that way. Or, yes, you could sack Toxicroak in the lead, send a Lone Raichu, farm down, and then Wild Charge your opponent to Oblivion. Or, yeah, I would say these two are the ones that are going to give you the biggest problem. There are ways you can play as Sableye and Galarian Rapidash, but you lose the lead, say switch into a Lone Raichu, close out with Mandibuzz and Toxicroak with shields or down shields, depending on how things go. Or you just win, say, your switch, and then you just realign. Alright, this next team's ABB. Here's the problem, though. It's kind of inaccessible. You have Sneasler, Hisuian Qwilfish, and Drapion Shadow to close out. You could use the regular one if you want to, but the point being here is Sneasler overall is the most powerful Pokemon for this cup. The problem is it's extremely inaccessible unless you trade to a low-level account. However, some people might actually have Sneasler. At this point, I really don't care what you do. If you have, you have. You don't, you don't. Seriously, if the Niantic doesn't put any precautions to stop things like this from happening and people cheating by trading over from low-level accounts, there's nothing to do about it. Obviously, Niantic really cares about competitive integrity. Not really. Team is really solid against the overall meta. Sneasler can have a problem against Dark types just because Shadow Claw is resisted. Outside of that, it's very powerful against all you. There's a lot of X's here. It wins a lot of leads, except for a select few like Dark types, etc. You lose the lead with Sneasler, switch out to a Hisuian Qwilfish, and you may be the close combat / X Scissor will bring you to victory along with Drapion Shadow as your Shadow Drapion Sneasler can hopefully close out the match for you if you lose the lead. And then what you can do is send in Hisuian Qwilfish. Hopefully, even if they do win it, you can farm down with Sneasler or Drapion Shadow and then just close out your opponent. Really strong team. The only problem is Sneasler is just super inaccessible. And like I mentioned, I already gave you my opinion. If Niantic's gonna allow it, guess what? We don't have any choice. It's gonna be running around, and it's gonna be running around a lot. Alright, last but not least, we have ABB. This is just Medicham. The same component as last time you have, except for just using Drapion Shadow and Mandibuzz instead. Double Dark. Medicham is actually really good for this cup, just because Ice Punch and Dynamic Punch hits like a truck, and if you catch an Umbreon lead, you're loving life. You lose the lead, you say switch into Drapion, Shadow Drapion, and Mandibuzz is the best closer statistically for this cup. With Mandibuzz actually giving you the hardest time. Now, if you have Mandibuzz versus Medicham, Mandibuzz does win this matchup, but barely. So what happens is you can send in Drapion, get a lot of Poison Fang's worth of Poison Fang down, and then you can close out with a bunch of energy with Mandibuzz and Drapion in the back. So you're just going to have this super thick Albatross just absolutely blow your way to victory. Galarian Moltres, if you have it, is actually very good for this cup. Here's the problem. G Moltres actually loses the 2-shield straight Ice Punch against Medicham. So before you think it's good, it's actually not that good. Just putting that out there. As far as at least against Medicham. A lot of you should or might have Medicham XLs accessible, so this team should be pretty available to you. As far as Medicham XL, Shadow Drapion, and then Mandibuzz to close out. Really solid team. Again, probably one of the better ones with such a great overall balance. Your threat score is going to be 600 or higher no matter what. You could try to create a low threat score here. However, this is kind of a condensed meta. If it wasn't for pretty good safe switches here and just like farm down abilities, this would be kind of a really weird RPS cup. Just because Charmers beat Dark or Dark beats Psychic and then just whatever the hell closes out. So it's going to be a little chaotic. But again, solid ABB team and can do well for you for the Willpower Cup. It did well for me in practice, and it's going to do. I'm probably going to feature this one a lot for my shoutcast for the Willpower Cup. And that's game. I hope these teams do help y'all out. The Willpower Cup is a very weird cup. I don't know who had the weird idea. I know it used, like, if you've played Soap before, this is literally like the Nightmare Cup, but it's kind of bleh. This is how you know they're running out of ideas, and then they're just hyper monetizing Pokemon Go. Because PvP is just broke as crap. It's definitely not as competitive as people have put out with, because unless you're like a game that has 2K viewers on Twitch average for their esport is not competitive. A game that has, just to put that out there, League of Legends, literally one set gets 200,000 or more viewers. One set, as in one org's battling another org in a best of 5. So while in Pokemon Go, in a grand final, you can only pull 2 to 3K, an esport that where they're just even in the semis or the quarters is pulling 200 plus K. Let that sink in. Now, I know it's not fair to compare it to League, but however, League made far more traction in the esports realm than Pokemon Go ever did in their first 4 years. Just putting that out there. No, Pokemon Go is not the greatest esport in the world, nor is it a game that you should play for. In fact, our esport is literally pay to win, or even pay to compete. Because unless you have the time, because you need to be there on a Thursday for some stupid reason, you can't be there on a Friday on the day of competition and register, and you're not signed, like no one's signed to a big org or anything, so they're not gonna pay for a flight to begin with. And then after that, you have to compete. So it's pay to compete and a high barrier to entry. Two things that literally are the opposite of what makes a big esport is what Pokemon Go represents, and guess what? It's not working. In fact, it's getting a lot of people are either leaving, and viewership is definitely either staying stagnant or it's deteriorating, because clout can only get you so far. But hopefully y'all are enjoying hopefully y'all are excited for the Poké. A keyword is hopefully. And then we have up until December 1st, and after that, it's probably going to be some kind of like interlude season, or if not, season 13. Please change something, because if you don't, I am definitely not. I'm already done gunning for Legend this season because of lag and everything whatnot. I'm definitely done next season. Absolutely done next season. If we had a fair system, most people wouldn't be at 3,500 whatever eel. You'd be at like 4,000 or more. Our leaderboard is a joke. Our system is a joke. There needs to be change, or the game's going to die if it hasn't already been dying already. So, hope you guys are enjoying the World Cup. Again, do me a huge favor, like, subscribe, and comment for the YouTube algorithm. I really do appreciate y'all. Good luck on your Go Battle sets, and I will see y'all on the next video.
That I need